you. Hello, hello, dear ones. It's so wonderful to see your faces. Thank you all for being here today, and we'll get started in just a couple of moments. Brenda, it's so good to see you. I have missed you. I hope that you have been well. So just in case you all get the message, we are recording. I think it should have told you that when we entered. So we're just going to wait just a couple more minutes before we get started.
Jan, hi.
Hello. Hi, Michelle.
Good morning. I received an email earlier that it was canceled, and then another email saying to sign back up again. So it was a little confusing. So I'm wondering if other people were a little confused as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was confusing, and thank you for that because I'm going to check my email. I haven't gotten a whole bunch of inquiries this morning. That had to do with the links because we had one link for emotional lunch break, and then we completely dismantled that and set up a new link for this program.
That's what I kind of thought. And I was like, okay, I'm going to redo it again and see what happens.
And it worked okay the second time, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get another message coming back saying it was canceled or anything. So I just went and redid it again just to see because I was like, you're saying both are to this week and next week? That's kind of odd. So
Exactly, exactly. In fact, someone called me and said, "Are you doing okay? Because the lunch break is canceled. Are you all right?" And so, thank you for that, Michelle. Let me see. I'm just someone saying they're having trouble getting in, and that's a problem I think with having a registration is that I don't have the direct link just to get into the room necessarily. Oh, but you know what? If I use my link, I'm gonna try something a little bit different because I registered for this event with a donation as well. So let me see if I can just pass on my link. Okay, yeah. Let's see if that works. So then people don't have to go through the registration process. Let's see if that works. Fair Rising TJ, thank you for being here. I will monitor email as we go along, and yet I also want to honor that we're about 4 minutes after, and we go ahead and get started. So hello and happy Tuesday. I hope that you are all doing well. If you have been to emotional lunch break before, you know that we start with taking our stress scale number. So this is a way just to let ourselves and other folks know just how we're doing today. So on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 is you're relaxed, all is well, life is good, you're chilling, and 10 is you're jumping out of your bones, just don't know what to do with yourself, either anxious or depressed or somewhere in between. If you don't mind going ahead and put your stress scale number in the chat just so we can see how we're doing. And for those folks that may happen to be above a 5, hopefully we can bring that number down just a little bit. Thank you, TJ. Reports a 4. And Jabari says a 3. Fabulous. I'm going to say that I'm at a 4 myself. Okay, we have more folks piling in here. Lorraine says an 8. Lorraine, hopefully our time together will bring that number down just a little bit because you know I believe that we are each other's liberation medicine. Oh, a strange screen here. Hotep Roxanne, thank you for being here. Roxanne reports below a 5. Michelle says Jumbo -2. Urbaba Onaje reports a 4. Karen's at a 1. Thank you all so much for contributing to your numbers. Thank you, Gloria, for being here. We'll go ahead and dive in. We've got Jessica joining us as well. Brenda is at a 7. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. Hope that we can have a little breathing space for you. And hopefully that number will come down as we are each other's liberation medicine over the course of an hour. So this is Black History Month, or as we call it at Community Healing Network, Ancestor Month. It is a time to honor our history by acknowledging the personal legacies from which we come to reflect on the history that we will leave for our children. Let's see. I'm at a 10 already. And also, let me take this moment to put our Ancestor Month flyer into the chat. Let's see if it works that way. Lucretia says it there at an 8. Gloria is also at an 8. We got some high numbers in here today. And also, this is not attaching for me at this moment. Normally, I'm able just to kind of slide a little PDF in there and send it on its way. There it goes. Fabulous, fabulous. So today, thank you all for being here. Our special guest speaker today is Autumn Redcross. Autumn joins us for an introduction to genealogy. Autumn is the movement building director and the founding director of the Court Watch program at the Abolitionist Law Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They also have offices in Philadelphia. The Abolitionist Law Center, their mission is to free people from incarceration, protect the rights and well-being of those who encounter the criminal punishment system at all points along its pipeline, extract financial resources via legal settlements and carceral institutions like police departments, jails, and prisons, and redistribute those funds to people impacted by the criminal punishment system, build power among, take their leadership from, and be accountable to people who are directly impacted by capitalism, state violence, and mass incarceration, and completely dismantle these racist, classist systems, and in their place create and/or support the building of alternative models of addressing harm and creating wellness in our communities. Autumn's interest in genealogy began with a desire to document her lineage and family history. Her research began in the early 2000s. Autumn began teaching genealogy and storytelling to middle school, sorry about that, to middle school students in Pittsburgh Public Schools. And later she co-authored African Americans in Sewickley Valley as a photographic history of the small community where she now lives. Remembering and honoring our ancestors through research and documentation is one of her favorite things to do. She returned to school to pursue her PhD and dedicated her dissertation, Black Body Memory, a Philosophy of Communication, on the talk. Recently, she is compelled to revisit and add to that work as her investigation into embodied memory increases with the concept of lineage. She is currently involved with the Liberation Genealogy Project with Eve Shipman. It is a workshop forum to empower our kin to navigate their own family histories. Dear ones, I would like to start with a brief little meditation just to kind of get us a little bit closer to being with the ancestors. And I am noticing now here in the chat that we are having more family members that are having difficulty getting in. If you don't mind me taking just a moment to respond to some of these family members so we can increase our attendance today. One more, let's see. Thank you for your patience with this process before we dive into our meditation. Good, Jackie. I'm glad to see that you are here. Fabulous. Okay. Yeah, it is a little bit of confusing. I just wanted to acknowledge there's a question in the chat about the links. So normally we do have our emotional lunch break link, and because this is a special presentation, we have a different Zoom link set up for today, which is causing a little bit of confusion. So thank you all for being here. Okay, great. Okay, let me just have one more moment just to take a look at my email to see if there's anyone else having trouble getting in. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you all again for being here. I've done a bit of an introduction for Autumn Redcross, her personal passion for coming to genealogy, as well as her role at the Abolitionist Law Center and the work that they do. So I'm going to just take a moment to do a little brown bear shake, as we call it, take a couple of breaths before we have just a little meditation to get us into a space where we feel a little bit closer to the ancestors than we normally do. And perhaps your morning meditation has faded a little bit. So please sit gently. Breathe deeply. In the quiet spaces of our minds, where the rush of the present moment slows to a gentle stream, we find a path that leads us to our ancestors. This journey is not measured in miles or years, but in the depth of our reflection and the breadth of our gratitude. Our ancestors, those who came before us, are the architects of our foundation, the weavers of our cultural tapestry, and the silent guardians who watch over us as we navigate the complexities of life. As we meditate on their existence, we realize that their lives were not so different from ours. They too faced challenges, celebrated triumphs. They loved, they laughed and learned. Their dreams and fears, hopes and disappointments are threads that connect us across the expanse of time, reminding us that we are part of a continuum, a lineage that stretches back into the mists of history. To honor our ancestors is to acknowledge their sacrifices and to recognize the gifts that they have bestowed upon us all. It is to understand that we are the result of their choices, their struggles, and their achievements. In the stillness of meditation, we can hear their whispers in the rustles of leaves, see their faces in the flickers of flames of a fire, and feel their presence in the warmth of the sun on our skin. This contemplation brings a profound sense of connection and responsibility. It is a reminder that we, too, are ancestors in the making, laying down the paths for our future generations. Our actions, our decisions, and our legacy will become from the soil from which they grow. In honoring our ancestors, we commit ourselves to live with intention, to nurture the seeds of kindness, courage, and wisdom that we have inherited so that we may flourish in the hearts of those who will one day look back and remember us. Let us then, in moments of quiet reflection, give thanks to our ancestors, for their stories are the stars by which we navigate the vast ocean of our existence, guiding us toward our destiny with the light of their enduring love. Dear ones, continue to welcome the ancestors with me as we review ancestral mathematics. In order for you to be born, you needed 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 second great-grandparents, 32 third great-grandparents, 64 fourth great-grandparents, 128 fifth great-grandparents, 256 sixth great-grandparents, 512 seventh great-grandparents, 1,024 eighth great-grandparents, 2,048 ninth great-grandparents. Dearest ones, in order for you to be born today from 12 previous generations, you needed a total of 4,094 ancestors over the last 400 years. Think for a moment. How many struggles? How many battles? How many difficulties? How much sadness? How much happiness? How many love stories? Dearest ones, how many expressions of hope for the future did your ancestors have to undergo for you to exist in this present moment? Our beloved Jessica Harris did the math for me. Thank you so much, Jessica. Today, joining us, we have a total of 81,888 ancestors here with us today. Thank you so much for being here for this special presentation with Autumn Redcross. And Autumn welcomes questions or comments along the way. If you have a question, please raise your virtual hand and I will acknowledge you. I turn the floor over to you, Autumn. Please share with us.
Hi, hi. Geez, Louise, as you're talking, I'm feeling very small and overwhelmed at the same time. My heart and mind is going all different places. I really appreciate that amazing introduction and warm up. I got to come back. It makes me immediately think about going to Ghana and visiting the Door of No Return that has been renamed the Door of Return, and how welcoming the chiefs and the elders and the mother queens were to us when we came as a group, and how they said, you know, we welcome you back. It was never meant for you to return, but now you're here. And during this introduction, you know, we're forced to think about our ancestors as ourselves. And I just love how much power they have given me through their choices and decisions. And through their strength to be, I believe that I am a product of their greatest intentions, and I'm so grateful to be here with you all this morning. I started my interest in genealogy, or my quest for genealogy, came from something else, sort of total to the side. I was interested in adoption at one point, long time ago. And I went to an orientation session about adoption, and they gave out brochures. The next step would be to decide who which agency you might want to go through to have an adoption. And I picked up a brochure that said Rainbow Adoption Agency on it. I thought, oh, that might be cool, you know, Rainbow. Maybe it would be for blended family children or multicultural children. So I called the place and they asked me immediately, well, are you Native American? Are you Indian? And I was like, no. And they said, well, our agency is for Indigenous people. And within the nation, you have to come from a tribe. What's your tribe number? And I said, tribe number? That's deep. I had never heard of that. And they said, well, yeah, you have to have a tribe number. You have to either be Indigenous. First, you have to be of the same tribe, right? And then if they cannot find a family within the tribe to adopt the children, you'd have to be Indigenous with a tribal number. So I said, my husband's name is Redcross. I don't know about all that, but I'll take a look and see. So I began to research his name and his family history, where he came from, to see if I could uncover this tribal number. Talking to his father was one of my first conversations. Wade, my husband, didn't know anything about it. I talked to his father, and his father acted as though to know nothing about it too. And he said, you know, I'm Mandinga, I don't know what you're talking about. But then when I pushed and spoke actually to his youngest sister, who grew up in North Carolina, she did grow up going to the powwows, and she was an Indian princess. And as a matter of fact, she went to school with scholarships. And she told me that the name of the tribe that she ascribed to was Hollywood-Sapina. It was a tribe from Halifax and Warren County, North Carolina, that had been forced to settle there in that land. They came together after the Trail of Tears and they set up their tribe. When I contacted the tribe for the tribal number, they told me that their books were closed, but they sent me a pedigree chart and that I would have to prove the lineage to that ancestral family. So I thought that was wild too, because I had never heard of a pedigree chart, but I was able to fill in that information, track the family tree, and sort of gift that to my husband and for my kids especially. We never did get the tribal numbers. The books did not open for over 5 years. I'm not sure if they're open now. But of course, once I did that work, I was curious about my own. So I began to look into my family history. And that starts again with conversation. It's so important that we talk to our elders who are here with us to learn about who our people are, and that we talk to people who may have known them. Also, it's so important that we start with ourselves. We really have to realize that our stories, like it's talked about this morning, we go on to be ancestors, and we will be the family that others are looking for after us. So we have to start with ourselves and write down what is going on for ourselves, where we are right now, what our stories are. It's necessary, a necessary beginning. I want to tell you about my great-great-grandmother. Her name was Susie Peeler. And she was very old-fashioned when she came to live with her family. The year was 1930, and they had never seen anyone who looked like her. And when I say they, I'm talking about her grandchildren. They were very surprised to meet their great grandmother, but they welcomed her and were so curious about her. They had never seen anyone who looked like her before. She wore one of those long dresses, like the ones that you see in the cowboy movies, that it went all the way down to the floor. And she always wore an apron, whether she needed it or not. She had on a proper blouse, and on top of her head, she always wore a bonnet. She made these bonnets herself and tied them under her chin with a nice big bow. The bonnet always matched the outfit. She was sure to look sharp because her husband was a minister. He ministered to the counties and 3 churches there. And you know how people are around ministers. But she was older now and her husband had passed away. She was moved into her son's house and she brought with her a great big arched back trunk. She used to prance around the house singing, "I'm a doctor," because she herself was a midwife. And she delivered babies, both black and white, all within the area. She would go and stay at their houses for some days when she had to deliver to teach the young mothers how to be mothers. She would prance around the house singing, "I'm a doctor." She had in her hand this cup called Tidy. It was her toddy cup and had some things in it. I don't know. And she also chewed tobacco. She made it look so good. So when a time came when she had to leave to go birth a baby in the neighboring county, the kids were all excited, all curious about that archback trunk in the back of her room. And they couldn't help themselves but to go into the trunk and pull out her tobacco. They opened it up so curiously. She always made it look so good, and they began to consume it. They tried it themselves because they needed to know what it tasted like. And they kept eating, even though it tasted to them so badly. They kept chewing and chewing, but things went bad and they all got sick. When their parents came home, their parents could only laugh and crack up about them because they had punishment enough by getting into that tobacco and eating it to the point that they made themselves sick. And they were not punished any further. I love that story, and I got it from a cousin of mine, third removed. I found her because she shared the name of my Susie Peeler. She was the granddaughter of Susie Peeler, who told me this about her grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, while she was still alive. And I recorded that story, and I began to dress like her when I would teach genealogy to the middle school students. But the conversation, I would never know that about her if I didn't have that initial conversation with her and if I didn't record what she said to me. It allows for the research to go better, and it gave me specific information about her family tree, about my family tree. I wanted to ask, who in this group has begun their research? How far are we along our search? How much of genealogists are we all?
I didn't see, could see how many. Oh, I see one.
I see 4, 5, 6, 7.
Maybe we could call in some people and they can talk.
Yeah, sure. Please, anyone would like to share? Please either raise or or continue to keep your virtual hand raised, and I will call on you to share. And so the question is, who has begun their I was going to say liberation journey, their ancestral journey, their genealogy journey? Lucretia says in the chat, I've taken time to pull out old obituaries, but got stuck. Let's see what happened. Olivia says in the chat, I have tons of photos and family records. Lafayette, you share with us.
Okay. We're not really genealogists in my family. We just happen to have a last name in the state of Virginia that's pretty traceable. But that being Jefferson. And I know that John Jefferson was a coach driver, Jefferson Plantation, among all the other stuff. And then on top of that, we have always had our family tree, verbal and written. And so right now we're in a phase where we're just connecting with other people that are named Jefferson and connecting to their family trees. And we had a thing in Williamsburg, Virginia, and like over 2,000 people showed up over a weekend, and it was kind of wild, and it was funny because I knew some of the people, I went to high school with them, but you know, it's all strange, especially being a Jefferson, because you have that string of Jeffersons that that love the idea of being associated with Thomas Jefferson and Monticello, and they try everything they do to get in that circle. Whereas my Jefferson clan has the mindset ever since my granddaddy of nah, stuff hits kind of different when you know who raped your ancestors and beat them and all that kind of stuff, because he actually remembered that stuff and we put it in a documentary form. I got a cousin that's a documentary filmmaker. And so genealogy is important. It's important because I've never had to wonder who I was. And when we were smaller, we go down to South Carolina and play in my granddad's yard, and all of the older people would sit around and actually tell us who we were as it related to ancestors of the past, because they actually knew. And it's an area that I love. I love my family. Love being my part of Jefferson. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Baba Onaje, please share with us.
Thank you, family. Blessings. So there was a woman at Columbia University, for whatever reason, decided to do research on what was called Skunk Hollow, which was a Black settlement on the Palisades bordering New York and New Jersey. And in that, they spoke of the Olivers and the Thompsons and the Ciscos. All of these are my relatives. I have one elder cousin, whoever knows how many moved, Arnold Brown, who's done some research. And I need to go and talk to him again. He was at my mother's 90th birthday on November the 18th. And I need to go and see him and sit down at his feet again and get involved with the history that's there. The book, she did her dissertation on Skunk Hollow. I'm happy to have that, but certainly I need to dig a little further to make those connections. And thank you so much for letting me share. I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Baba Onaje. I'll just read a couple of comments in the chat. Our dearest Roxanne says, I have done some genealogy and oral histories from great aunts and great uncles. And Jerry says, I am blessed to have been born into a tribe that has a naming tradition, so I am able to trace my name for several generations. I am named on the maternal side, and the name will carry on. Olivia in the chat says, family reunion in San Antonio in June. And our other beloved and Jerry says, I was able to fill in the 16 Greats project completely. My cousin and I work together. She's a true genealogist, and I'm a tag along, and I hold on real tight. Wonderful, wonderful. That was a presentation we had last year with 16 Greats project. Autumn, would you like to have two more sharings of two more people that have their hands raised, or would you like to move on right now?
I was thinking that maybe we could move on and we can try to get some of this good stuff down on paper or begin to think about specific things about our family tree. So I don't see the view, but we were talking about getting that story and collecting the story in different ways as we do it. Maybe at family reunions, maybe just sitting down at you, like you said, at the feet of our elders and collecting these stories. We also really need to honor ourselves and write down our own stories because we need to start with us. We need to make sure that it's preserved for the future and that we're starting in this good place to go back. When you're having conversations with other people, we're thinking about names and relationships. We're thinking about births and deaths. We're thinking about marriages and divorce. We're thinking about movement as in geographically, and we're thinking about favorites as in like cultural activities or hobbies or things that we did ourselves. One tool for genealogy is using a timeline where you chart your beginning. So you chart your birth date and you just write the line forward, right? And so you're putting these big things that have happened on your life on this timeline. It just helps you to organize memories so that you can write your memoir or your autobiography. And you want to think about how you'll be organizing the memories of the people who you're attributing your research to or who you're researching about as you go back through your family tree. The big things to highlight are like your childhood years, where you grew up, what you did, what it was like there, where you were born. Were you born in a hospital? Were you born in your mother's bed? Who you were named after, how you were named, who named you, where you lived as you were growing up, what schools you went to, where you worked, the relationships that you have, maybe things about the church, baptism, christenings. All these things help to contribute to what your story is. And it's a great place to start. Sometimes I've done this exercise with people where we write about our name. I know that someone wrote in the chat about their family name or being named after the maternal line. And names are something that are so key when we're researching our family history. We see names going back. We think about nicknames and how sometimes they come up in census records and sometimes they don't. But we think about how these nicknames follow our people, what the purpose of these names are, the power behind names, how we can rename ourselves, and when this usually happens. So I wanted to ask really quickly if we could think about our own names. How did we get the names that we had? And I'm hoping that, Jan, that the two next people who wanted to share could share about their names or can add to what they wanted to present on or what they wanted to share with us with the story of their names.
Absolutely. Beloved Sharon, please share with us, how did you get your name? What stories do you know?
Well,
My parents were named Leonza and Harlene Consuela, and in their in interactions with other people, they had challenges because they had unusual names, and so they named me Sharon, Sharon K, and my sisters Linda Faye and Cynthia Renee, which were very generic common names, to kind of avoid the stress of having complicated names. My mother's name story is that her mother's employer refused to learn her name, Harlene. She said it was too hard, and she called her Nancy. And her whole family called her Nancy until late into adulthood, when she challenged that and reclaimed her right to be called by the name her mother gave her. And I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I want to point out in the chat that our Jessica says my middle name goes back to some of my great family members. Yeah. Baba Ing, please share with us.
No, I'm sorry. I was waving at Sister Ellis.
Dr. Gloria. Jabari, please share with us. How did you get your name?
So I'm actually a junior, but my father was going to be originally named Jabari Baraka Vanterpool. And my grandmother went to my great-grandmother to share the information about what my father was going to be named. And she's from Virginia, from Sutherland, Virginia. She was Christian, and apparently Jabari Baraka was a little bit too strong for her. So I think they accommodated my great-grandmother and came up with Marcus, which is another is a Pan-Africanist name, which I think is what kept the that particular part or element. It was retained through naming my father Marcus. But yeah, once I was born, my mother decided to bestow the same name upon me. So that's the backstory behind my name.
Thank you so much. Should we have two more people with raised hands? Autumn, would you like to learn about the origin of their name, or do you want to move on at this time?
Let's hear more stories.
Absolutely. Dr. Gloria, please share with us.
Good morning, family. My name is Gloria, and I was born in the backwoods of Georgia in my mother's bed, and I was delivered by my aunt, who was today they call them the woman who delivers babies at home. So that's what my aunt, she delivered me. And apparently, well, not apparently, I was a love child. So there was a lot of feelings about me, who I was going to be, and I mean, everybody had feelings about me, from what I understand about who this child was going to be. And typically, my grand aunt, the one who delivered me, she said her first question was, well, what are the colors of her ears? Okay, so they were looking, they were doing their colorism thing, right? And then the whole issue, someone wanted to call me Evelyn. And my aunt said, no, that's an evil name. Her name is going to be Glorious, Gloria. So that's how I got my name. I thought it was truly funny, and warm and loving.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Gloria. Beloved Olivia, please share with us. Olivia, if you can come off mute and share with us how you got your name. She may have stepped away for a moment, so we can always come back to Olivia. Oop, Autumn, I think you're on mute.
Oh, that's embarrassing. I encourage you to write down your stories to preserve that. We think we'll remember it forever, and maybe we will, but we want to share it with others. And that's a great way to start, a great part of your memoir, that it's something that can be part of your memoir and a good place to start. These stories are robust and our names are so meaningful. The next thing that I thought that we should go to, which is a part of your genealogical research, is the family group record. The family group record records all the people who are part of that, that network of folks who were maybe in your house as you grew up. And it allows you to document folks outside of your direct lineage. So our lineage, as we understand it, our ancestors in a genealogical sense, are the people who made us, who made them, who made them. But when you record your family group records, you're looking into aunts and uncles and cousins, because every person in your pedigree chart, every group in your pedigree chart, which we'll get to last, should have a family record to go with it. So these are the people who made you. Like for me, it would be my mother and my father, Joseph Gibson, Juanita Peeler, right? And then I would be one of these down the bottom. I have an older sister, and then I'm born. Others, my other brothers and sisters do not share by blood the same parents as I do. How I choose to record that is up to me. Do I talk about who was in the house? Do I talk about family bloodlines? Do I talk about relationships in terms of like my best friend from down the street and how much of a sister she was to me? The way you record your information is your decision. I would write a note. I would explain that decision or explain what that decision means as I'm documenting it, so that other people know this information or know part of the story of what you have to tell. So I'm wondering if everybody can imagine what their family group record looks like. I know that we don't necessarily have time to do that, but if you did, would you be able to do this in this moment? Is there anyone who has questions about that record, how it's done, what it should look like? Or is there anyone who wants to share about their family groups that they're familiar with?
Beloved Roxanne, please share with us.
Greetings, family. Hope everybody's well on this wonderful Tuesday. So I've done like ancestry.com, and I even did Africa Ancestry, and I was thinking, ooh, I'm probably part of, the Homie tribe or Ubuntu tribe or something like, something in my mind. And it came back and said that, and it kind of tracks with my Maya Cardo, the female side of my family, that my ancestors 7,000 years ago came for what is now known as Turkey. And I thought that was very, very interesting. because on my mother's side, there's my great grandfather. His father was a white man, but my great grandmother, her mother was indigenous, and so that kind of tracked for me. What I wanted to ask you though is that on my father's side, I haven't been able to go back further than great grandparents, and they were from South Carolina. And the story goes that my great grandfather had to leave in the middle of the night with his 9 children because he upset some mutants. That tracks because that's in my DNA too. But but so how do you go about finding out more information? And what archives or things like that can you suggest? With that, I'm complete.
Good question.
Wow. Yeah. Great layered questions. Right now in the Liberation Genealogy Project, we are in a discussion about these the weight and value of DNA. And we have had some people with information that came back as their ancestors are from Spain, and what are we to do with that? And then we took a look at the way the traits are following. So that matriarchal line is just one side of all those people that's talked about in the ancestral mathematics. It's just one side. So it is literally your mother's mother, her mother, and her mother. And if we're going 400 years back with how many? 8,000, was it?
4,094 ancestors in total.
4,094
Over 400
ancestors. That one person may very well have come from Turkey. 1 out of 4,000. So it's interesting and it's dynamic because it's so compelling to know, some things about your ancestors to get closer to them, right? But it's also, we just have to realize that in some ways, I hate to say the term a drop in the bucket, because that sounds almost dismissive, but there's a context to it. And so when we search for this information, we realize that there's context, there's a risk. We might learn things that we don't want to know, shouldn't be knowing, had no, business of. There's risk in the search for your family tree, is how I would respond to that first part. No, your second part had to do with the stories that follow the history. The best way to get to them is to talk to people and find out what they heard and what they knew. And then looking for documentation that substantiates the stories or does otherwise, so I have a similar story about my grandfather that I have not substantiated, but it's family lore that he ran from the South after something happened, and that he may have even changed his name. I can only rely on census records for that. Also understanding that census takers had so much power over how the name was recorded, what the relationships were. They recorded what they saw, they recorded phonetically, and how they decided to record that information. There's a lot of opportunity to look back into periodicals. I think you can get more nuanced stories. So to do a search from those names, but also from that time. And that's why the family, the timeline is so important. So if you can figure out about what time that was, you can search for periodicals, both from the place that he came and his arrival here. Hmm. For stories like that, I'd say, and school records as well. I think just looking for answers, like who were in the social groups, and then you look for information around them, like who could they have possibly been out with at that time. So you're looking at these paralleled relationships, how they're intersecting with one another, and where they're making their marks in history.
Wonderful. School records, that's not something I wouldn't have thought of whatsoever. I think that might be a chompable lead. And I know that we have a question comment from Michelle, and also following Baba Ing, there's an active chat. And so for those who are willing and able, I encourage you to take a look. There are a couple of questions that caught my eye, and Michelle, you might have had one of them. So let's see, please share with us, Michelle, and then we'll go to Baba Ing.
So first, just to talk going to talk to my West Indian from Jamaica side. My mother's side is from Jamaica. Lots of times I got pushed back and saying, let your ancestors rest, from family members. And then I was told by one of my eldest family members from Jamaica, which everyone said if you needed information, you needed to speak to her. So I found a cousin through her, and we were going through the newspaper article that she received because one of our uncles had passed away. Through that, I'm going all the way down, and I look and I said, why is this family member all the way down at the end of the paper? And she goes, she was a lady of the night. They don't speak of her. And, from our generation, we were like, okay, we laughed about it. And she said, and she did quite well, as I find out. But as you say, because of certain information, people don't want to say anything. And so that's been kind of hard to do, to try to get that information out of family members sometimes because they don't want to talk about those things. The question, so I just wanted to tell that story, but the question that I had, I was just wondering what form of information, how do you hold your information? Where do you document it? Do you have paper? Do you use computer? I use both. I have it in paper form as well as I have it in the computer as well. I do the ancestry.com as well, and 23andMe or whatever I can document my stuff in. But I was wondering, and also at one time going to what was it called? The church, the Mormon church, because at that time when I started, they're the ones that supposedly had a whole bunch of information, which I did get a lot of information from that and everything. They told me how to use the forms. And then a lady pulled me to the side and said very nervously, she says, we're willing to help you. We want to help you and everything, but you might get more information from the African American genealogy societies. And I know of one that's nearby, just in case you want to do that, but you are still welcome here as well. We just want to make sure you have all that information. And also I've gone to the cemeteries and, I've gone to the church through one of my, on my father's side, and actually spoke to someone that remembered one of my grandparents because they were a little boy at that time. And then I went to the church as well as to the cemetery that he was buried in and took photographs and stuff. So going to the cemeteries is a good place to go to as well for me. And I'm complete.
Thank you so much, beloved Michelle. I will move on to Baba Ing, but you bring up such a wonderful topic, which is secrets, family secrets. And Olivia, if you are still interested and available, we can move to you after Baba Ing.
Hotel family, I'm so honored and happy to be amongst you today. I've missed you all, really. My search of ancestry began maybe 40 years ago. And what I found through my DNA is that my great great-grandmother was stolen from Liberia and brought to North Carolina to a plantation of the Gordon family. So my ancestral name is Gordon, Gordon and Taylor. Her name was Rebecca. They named her Rebecca Africa. That's the name that they had for her. And according to the legends in my family, she ran away from the plantation with the son of the plantation owner and came up north and had 13 children. My grandmother was one of those children. Her name was Rebecca also. My grandmother married a man from Sri Lanka, Wilson Jasuria, and that is my grandfather. And what I found in doing this research is that oftentimes, although we always talk about and seek physical liberation, the liberation of our mind and spirit is so important because we've been enslaved psychologically and spiritually for over 400 years. And we have to understand that our original ancestor was the Black woman in Africa over 4.5 million years ago. She's the mother of all human beings on this planet. So when we talk about indigenous folk, we talk about people in India or Sri Lanka or Turkey or wherever. Black people, African people, have been all over this planet. Before the murderous rapist Christopher Columbus, we controlled the world economy through commerce out of North Africa. So our ships and our settlers and our explorers were all over this planet, my people. You cannot go to any land on the earth where there has not been a Black person, an African. China, Caucasus Mountains, India, the Dravidian civilization. So, I mean, all of these ancestors are us. You know, my great-great-grandmother lives through me. Rebecca Africa is in my face, in my DNA. I mean, and we're all related, I believe. I believe that our DNA, if we really took it all the way back, we have connections that we don't know now and would probably astound us and make us feel more whole than we actually feel now. Right now, I feel very whole being with you all. So this is why, you know, Sister Sharon always says, we are each other's medicine. Y'all are my medicine. I'm part of the medicine, right? And Sister Autumn, you know, all of you are, y'all are our medicine. This is what Black people need to be talking about and doing all the time, because this is our power. Our power is in knowing that our ancestors live in us. They're not gone. They've just transitioned back to the spiritual realm from which they came, and to which all of us will one day transition. You know, so I'm complete with that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much, Baba Ing. So good to see your face and have you back in the circle. We hope to see you again soon. Our beloved Olivia is having difficulty with her mic, and yet there may be a comment or question that I can share from on her behalf. We're at 1:04. And I know that sometimes families got to skedaddle at 1 o'clock. And if you must leave, please let us know. Please know that we are with you. Be blessed. We'll be back here next Tuesday. Thank you for being here. And Autumn, please proceed.
Thanks so much, Baba. I believe that that's amazing and wonderful when in the family group, Family Liberation Project, one of the things that was said was there are no Indigenous people that are not African. And also we've talked about the idea of, our family tree looks like this right now, but it goes back together, that we're all coming from one. I'm totally with it, with everything that you shared, and really appreciate your wisdom and vulnerability. So the final piece, or the big piece that we all come down to, is that pedigree chart where you are the first line. You're writing the names of your parents on these two lines. When I did this for the children in Pittsburgh, I put the mother at the top, just because why is the father always at the top? And so on. So you name your people here, and then theirs, and then theirs, and it can go back as far as you're able to. You'd put a number next to the name of the person that you're starting again with, and then their name becomes this center line. So we're thinking about how far can we reach back in our family tree. Back when I started this in about 2005, 6, something like that, we were using those centers that the Mormon Church set up for us. I don't even know if they still exist, but now there's so much on Ancestry.com, which is it's the same thing. It's the Mormon Church who's set that up. They keep those records because it's important for them to be able to baptize their ancestors into their belief after they're gone. That's how they became involved in all this. But there's so much available on Ancestry.com. When you go there, it's very intoxicating. It's very exciting almost, and you might be quick to just click on the next people that the app brings up for you and allow them to do all that research. But it can sometimes be misleading. Like, there are other people who have created trees, and they may create their trees that way, or just not be in as close contact to the ancestors that you're focused on. So they might not have done the same research. The reason we start with us and go immediately back before going back is so that we can be sure of this line that we're creating. We're taking the time to do the research. Let's take the time to do it well. That doesn't mean that you don't get to create what your family is. Something that I'm learning very acutely doing this work with the Liberation Project that I'm doing is that family is socially constructed. We've talked many times today about the diaspora. It has had an impact on what our families are. There are some people who have been adopted. I was thinking about adoption from the beginning. There's so much adoption in our culture at large. People were made to move and, raped and tortured and placed and misplaced and mixed up, right? But our families created a sense of belonging with what they were able to do. So there's huge mixing of us in general when it comes to blood and whatnot. And so we're allowed to envision our family as something other than what has been socially created for us to adhere to. Do you know what I mean? Like, within our cultures, within our families, we can have aunties and nieces and nephews who we know we're not related to, but that does not take away the fact that they are this to us. That this is the way I describe the relationship. This is the relationship that I have with them. So we just would want to document the decisions that we've made, or what it is, if we want that to be known for the people who come after us. We talked a little bit about secrets, right? Sometimes secrets are intentional. Sometimes they might not be, lesser so. You know, as I age, I can imagine more and more reasons for people to make things up as we have uncovered information from the past. Like, and I have gained just I don't know, maybe it's respect for the need sometimes for people to create secrets, because sometimes it means survival. It can be hard for us to accept. It can be hard for us to document. It can be hard for us to even understand sometimes, but sometimes there are reasons behind that. And it might be worth counting the cost of what exposure or uncovering would mean. Again, I think that there's risk in researching our family tree. And yeah. What else to say?
Autumn, we've had a question if you are willing to make your slides available to family. Is that something that you want to or intend to distribute?
Sure, I can. I feel like I should probably add to it to make them, you know, have more content in them so that they could be helpful for you. But yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I can send those out to the people that have registered for today's session. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. This was fun and refreshing. Are there any comments, questions?
Thank you so much. I mean, I love your delivery. I love the pace at which you discussed it. I loved your slides. I love your history of how you got into this. I love your enthusiasm about it. Thank you. So I think we all, I think I'm speaking for everybody, but I'm sure there are other comments, but this has just been absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gloria. Absolutely, absolutely. And so I just want to also, just so as Sharon says also in the chat, thank you, very informative and enjoyable. Michelle also says, thank you very much. I'd like to share a message from our Brenda, who's put on the chat. Roots Tech is hosting a free online genealogy class February 29th through May 2nd, and you can register at www.rootstech.org. That information is also in the chat if you're willing and able to get that link and copy it into your own information. Autumn, thank you so much for being the kickoff for our Community Healing Network Ancestor Month 2024. Dearest ones, I know that we're over the hour just a little bit, and I'd just like to conclude that as we put a close to our first discussion on ancestors for this month, let's just take a moment to reflect on the profound connection we share with those who came before us. Their struggles, their dreams and achievements have shaped the world we live in today, and it's crucial that we honor their legacy through our actions and memories. By understanding our past, we can better navigate our future, drawing strength and wisdom from the stories of our forebears. Let us commit to keeping their memory alive, ensuring that future generations appreciate the rich tapestry of history that has led us to this present moment. May we carry forward the best of what we've inherited, contributing to a legacy that would make our ancestors proud. Dearest ones, thank you so much for being here today. We look forward to having you come next Tuesday. Hopefully we won't have the same kind of link confusion. It's a special link because it's a special presentation. Please register and get that link. We look forward to seeing you. Be blessed. Thank you so much for being here. Stay safe. Have fun. Make great choices. And remember, there are people that love you. Thank you so much, dear ones. Peace be with you.
Jan. You can stop recording?